There are so many things to really love about the Pensacola metro area, but after we relocated here, there are a few things that, it's not like it bothers us all the time, but we have noticed that we do not like about the area, which in reality are kind of minor, but it's good to always expose you guys to these things, the things that a lot of people really aren't talking about. The 5 worst things that honestly we really don't like about the Pensacola metro area. And before I dive in, guys, I know this video is going to be posting a week later. Right now where I'm sitting at, tomorrow is Thanksgiving, and I just want to express my gratitude to anyone who is watching and then ultimately ends up calling us. We have been getting quite a bit of calls across recently, and it's amazing. We feel so blessed when we are helping out so many of you who are relocating to the area, and I just wanted to say thank you and how grateful I am for those of you who do reach out and then also support us on this channel. Let's go ahead and dive into those 5 worst things. And like I said, I really tried going outside the box on this one because, like I said, I always like to look at everyone else's channels, what's not getting covered. That way we are covering it for you, so you're getting exposed to it. So does it blindside you when you move here and like, hey, holy crap, why didn't no one tell me about this? And so let's go ahead and dive into these. The first one that we're going to be talking about is going to be the grass and lawns. And almost every single time, okay, not every single, let's say 70% of the time, when I'm showing you guys houses in the area, you always ask me, it's like, why does it seem like no one likes to take care of their grass and lawns here? Okay, so it also depends on where you're at, whether you're in an HOA community, all the different things, but there is something here when we are talking about grass and then also your lawns, because where I came from back in Colorado, it seems like everyone's grass was tip-top shape. It was super green, everyone loved laying on it. It's not necessarily the case here, and I think there's one big reason over this. You see a majority of these lawns do have like your St. Augustine grass, which technically it really doesn't look like the grass. It's not great to lay on. It's kind of rough, hard, pokey, and it looks more like a weed. I'll actually kind of show it a little bit. It's not the greatest grass. Now, outside of that, you also do see like Bermuda grass here as well too, which is much nicer, much more of that kind of style of grass that you like to lay on, like to maintain, like to keep green. I actually have both in my front yard, where my main portion of my front yard is the St. Augustine, and then the side yard, which was like recently done with landscaping, is more of that Bermuda style, but it's just not the prettiest of grasses unless you really do maintain it. And here's something that I actually noticed. I like to keep my grass up, and I really like to make sure I'm trimming the edges and everything. I slowly started to watch how my sidewalk seemed like it was growing smaller and smaller. I was like, what is going on here? Well, the grass grows over the sidewalks here, and I'll pop up a video showing that a little bit. And so oftentimes when you do see people who do like that fine edge when they are trimming the edge of their lawns, you see them out there with a shovel cutting off the overgrowth. And this happens whether it's St. Augustine or Bermuda or any of these other grasses. It just happens to like grow over your driveway and your sidewalks. It's just something that I didn't really realize until I moved here, because I had never really experienced that. Another thing that you guys do point out is, especially if we are looking at houses that are not within an HOA community, people in Florida like to park on their grass, on their lawns in their front yard. And this is something that we noticed back in like 2020 when we were looking in the Tampa area. Same down there. It's just you see a lot of cars, they do like to park on their front yards. And so us personally, that's why we chose like a super light version of an HOA. That way that is not allowed. But you do see that oftentimes in these non-HOA communities where people might park on the grass in their front yard, and sometimes they might not even have grass. The other thing that I notice is typically, like I said, where I came from, wintertime, late fall, and all those things up into early spring, your grass goes dormant. And so in the wintertime, you pretty much don't have to do anything with it. That is not the case. I still have to mow here in the wintertime, early spring, and then also late fall. You're still consistently having to mow just because it doesn't get super cold here. Your lawn really doesn't go dormant. And so you are constantly having to maintain it year round. And that's something that you might not really like when we are talking about the lawns here in Pensacola. Now, there is one great thing that you will notice in the area, and I really appreciated this, the fact that I was always having to water my lawn and pay for that water, is majority of the water that you're going to be using to water your lawns in the Pensacola metro area is either going to be reclaimed water, or it's going to be like a well situation where you have a pump outside of your house and it is pumping the water for your irrigation to your sprinkler system, which is super awesome. So me personally, where we live at, we have reclaimed water, and we only pay $10 a month, unlimited water, so I could water it 5 days a week and all those things, and it's awesome. And so that's nice if you are trying to keep a nice lawn, a nice landscape in your yard, and you're having to water it constantly. If you are on that well and or reclaimed water system, it's not going to cost you a ton of money in order to maintain it. And actually, talking about this lawn maintenance, it's a great segue into the next thing we're going to be talking about, and it's going to be the palm trees. When you think about Florida, say if you close your eyes and you think about Florida, you think tropical, you think palm trees, you don't really have to worry about this foresty feel. That is not the case in the Pensacola metro area, where we have many many pine trees. And with that, what do you get? You get a lot of those pine needles. You get a lot of sap going on your car. And it's just not something that you're really thinking about when you are kind of moving it into what you thought was more of a tropical area. In fact, I had 5 palm trees bordering my property when we first moved here, and I had them all cut down because I got sick of it. Every single time I was out mowing my lawn or blowing it just to clean everything up, it was just full of pine needles, and I could not stand it anymore. Not to mention, if I decided to park in the driveway, then I had to worry about that sap leaking onto my car in, like, usually it's like spring, summertime. The funny thing though is, like, even through all that, that's not what the main determining factor for me to get rid of my pine trees was. It was literally a big, huge bird, and I got a Jeep, top off, doors off, decided to like sleep in the pine trees at nighttime. And then we decided to take off in the morning time. Decided to do his business all over my Jeep, and one day it got like all up on the inside of it. I was like, all right, I'm sick of it. I'm taking these pine trees out. That was the final straw for me to finally take them out. But I can tell you that ever since I took them out, it has been amazing. I have not had to worry about those pine needles in my pool, about blowing all the pine needles and having to put them all in a trash bag to get rid of them. It has been fantastic. Just know that in the area there are many pine trees, and something that you might not like. The third thing that we have noticed that we haven't liked too much in the area is going to be that ocean air. And you might be looking at me like, Pete, what are you talking about? That's why we want to move into the area. We want to take advantage of that awesome ocean breeze, the ocean air that is in Pensacola. There are some things that come with that though. When we are talking about the ocean air, it is super salty. There are a ton of minerals in the air, and so it's like, I had a client call, it's a corrosive air, right? And so with that, you have to worry about your cars. And sometimes if you're not washing your cars often, you do see like white little film building up on like the edges and the corners of your car. And so it's definitely hard on our vehicles. It's hard on our barbecues. Pretty much anything metal outside is really going to get exposed to these things. In fact, I always stored my golf clubs in the garage. That's something that I always did back where I came from, because we pretty much had no humidity whatsoever. And this also tells you kind of how much I really don't golf. But one time I decided to take an outing with some family that were visiting down here. Went out there, my golf clubs were covered in rust. I was like, holy crap, what is going on here? And it's because of that corrosive air that is in the area, something that you do have to kind of keep up on. And so I'd recommend washing your car daily. It might seem like it's really not dirty, doesn't need it, but just to be able to get some fresh water on it in order to rinse off those salts and minerals can serve you quite a bit. And just know that if you buy a barbecue here, I mean, you can spend all the money you want when we're talking about like Traegers and all these things. When that air gets to it, it does seem like it rusts and corrodes a little bit faster, just being exposed to that ocean air, and something that you're constantly having to maintain, constantly having to keep an eye on, just to make sure your stuff isn't like dwindling into nothing. The fourth one, and this one I actually feel like I bring up almost every single time when we talk about the things that we do not like about the Pensacola metro area, and we're going to be talking about snakes. I personally, I hate snakes, guys, and that is why I am bringing this up. And you know what? You know you're moving into Florida. They always tell you about gators and snakes, and gators actually isn't really that big of a problem in the Pensacola metro area as much as like Central and then also South Florida. But snakes is definitely a problem. And I will tell you, I've been here, I think we're going on 3 years. I have yet to see one poisonous snake. So when we're talking about water moccasins, cottonmouths, stuff like that, the majority of the snakes that I do see are like garter snakes or those black racers, you know. That's the majority of the snakes that we do see. That's not to say it's not going to get me going crazy. I was showing a house one time, and this might have been that one poisonous water moccasin that I don't think I've seen yet, but I went to step somewhere and I saw something big and black come out right from underneath my foot, go into a bush, and it scared the living crap out of me. My clients, if they're watching this right now, they know I was shaking for the next 5 showings. But yeah, snakes is a huge problem. And we actually our kids were playing out front. A lady was walking the track that's right next to our house, and she came up to me and she's like, hey, make sure your kids do not go on the other side of the bridge. There's a good sized water moccasin over there. Last thing I want is for them to go over there and then accidentally get bit by the water moccasin. Now, the good thing about it too is you hear these horror stories, and I actually had this misconception before I moved here, is water moccasins, they go after people and all these things. They're actually pretty scared of people. As long as you're not bothering them, as long as you're not in between them and water, for the most part, they're going to leave you alone. That's not to say, though, that you want to end up stepping on one if you're walking a trail or anything like that. And a majority of the ones that I do see are those, like I said, the garter snakes. Those are what I see. I actually was picking up dog poop. This might be a little bit too much information, but I was picking up dog poop and just going around not thinking about it. And I went to pick something up, and I thought it was dog poop, and it was a snake, and it scared the crap out of me again. And the final thing, this one is actually something new that I came up just this week, guys. And so we're going to be talking about flights coming out of Pensacola. Now, when we first moved into Pensacola, it was the Pensacola Regional Airport. And I think within months of us moving here, it then switched over to Pensacola International Airport. We're like, hey, this is awesome. Does this mean that we're going to have more flights coming in? Does this mean that it's going to become a little bit bigger or something along those lines? Because we came from DIA, Denver International Airport, which was a super large airport. So pretty much anywhere you wanted to go, you could find a flight at any time, right? That hasn't been the case, and we've kind of dealt with it. And so when we're talking about the flights that are going out of Pensacola, we like to use Southwest. One thing that we've had to learn to accept is the fact that Southwest isn't direct back to Denver or in a lot of these larger cities in off season. Tourist season, you can get direct flights. Just know that there's a good chance that you are going to have a connecting flight depending on where you are going to go. I think like majority of the connecting flights year round are going to be like to like Nashville. I think maybe Atlanta's on there. A few of these other ones pretty much that are those connecting flights going to these other areas. But it has become kind of a problem. And like I said, this week, so we're planning this family vacation. We're going on this family vacation. And out of nowhere, I just found out that our flight got canceled. I was like, holy crap, what am I going to do? We're like less than a week out. We're supposed to be flying out on Sunday. And so I'm sitting there trying to find flights. And the thing about it is on the other end where we got our transportation, we couldn't change that time frame. I had to try and find some flights within 30 minutes of landing where we're going in order to still keep that transportation. I couldn't find it in Pensacola. I was at a point now where I was like, there's nothing that I can do because there's no flights here. I ended up having to look into New Orleans, and there's something that I found out with doing this. So I looked into New Orleans. It's about a 3-hour drive from here. My flight was $900 cheaper than what I had originally paid because it's flying out of I guess you'd say a larger airport. And we just decided to drive up the night beforehand, and we paid like $100 for a hotel. So with the Pensacola airport being as small as it is, just know that the rates might be a little bit, if not a lot higher than what you're typically used to if you are closer to a larger airport. And then also if you are looking to get those direct flights, like I said, unless it's like during tourist season, it's pretty limited when we are talking about those direct flights. All right, cool guys. Thank you so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. Again, like I said, in the mood of Thanksgiving, even though this is gonna be posting after. Thank you so much for all the business, for all the views, for all the comments that you guys do give to us. We greatly appreciate it. And it's awesome. It warms our hearts every single time that we get to help out one of you who are relocating in the area. Speaking of which, if you are looking at purchasing real estate in the Pensacola metro area, going all the way down into 30A, give us a call or text at that phone number right below. Right below right there. We always answer. It doesn't matter day or time. But if you're not quite ready to purchase, just want to follow along and educate yourself, smash that subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up, notification bell. That way you're notified every single time we put out a brand new video. Till next time, love ya. Bye.